So around 2017, SOG was in the news. They were reported as being the multi-tool company that was beginning a revolution that was changing the way multi-tools were made. And the series was called the Baton. So SOG decided to come out with this Baton series where they were changing the multi-tool from its normal sort of square, boxy looking design to something almost like a pen, something more pocketable, something a lot more rectangular. And this was the first attempt at that. This was the SOG Baton Q1. The main tool of this, as you can see, was a pair of spring-loaded scissors, and it folded up into the tool. It had this nice pocket clip, and then on the bottom it had this pen. Now I have carried this to work, and I actually enjoy this tool right here. It's a pretty nice little tool. Not extremely heavy. It's not super light, but it's not unwearable in your pocket. Let's just bring this in, and this comes in at about 62 grams. Then change this over to ounces, about 2.2 ounces. So a bit heavy for a pen in your pocket, but still I've enjoyed carrying this at work. The screwdriver, the bottle opener, the scissors, and the pen, again, are the main tool right there. So this was the Q1, and not only was the Q1 introduced, but 4 more tools were introduced, and still to this day, the SOG Baton series has definitely left its stamp on the multi-tool world, because we see tools like the QDX that I recently reviewed that essentially are an adaptation of the Baton series. Now, after the Q1, the next tool that would come out was a flashlight knife, the Q2. Now, I do not have this tool yet. I have the Q3 and the Q4, which we will talk about today. But the Q2 was definitely, I think, would be outdated today with all the updated flashlight technology. But at the time, you had the light, you had the knife, and as you can see on the screen, it was definitely a different, perhaps more modern looking multi-tool at the time. Now, the next tool to come out was the Q3 rather, and this is the Q3. Now, not only is it swapping out the scissors, getting rid of the scissors as the main tool. Now we have spring-loaded pliers. And these are fairly beefy filling pliers, especially here at the middle. Look how thick those are right there. These aren't extremely thick here, but that is very, very thick right there. Probably, let's pull out a Leatherman Wave and see if it's even thicker than the Leatherman Wave. All right, so here is my Leatherman Wave, and this is the SOG Baton Q3. So you can see, yes, right here it's even thicker than the Leatherman Wave. So they were definitely trying to get something that was a little bit more durable, spring-loaded pliers. The problem with this tool, as with some of the different Baton series, the big issue with this is that the handles can slide up. So you need to be able to grip something, and then the handles sort of lock into place. But if the pliers are anywhere where they're not gripping firmly on something, then the handles like open like this right here. So if you're gripping a bigger object, then the handles slide up. So they're meant only for basically a lighter task. So let's, for instance, if we have these opened the full way right here on the measuring tape, then the handles can just slide. Yeah, so that was a very big engineering mistake. SOG definitely should have addressed that. And that is one of the problems to this day of the Baton series. Swisstech has tried to remake the Baton series, and it's still a really big issue. So the pliers were okay if it wasn't for that design flaw. And then there is the nice pocket clip. And on this version right here, we've got a whole bunch of tools in the handle. And I do like how SOG tried to rethink the multi-tool. Look at this gigantic chisel right here. This is probably one of the, I guess, the biggest chisel I have ever seen on a multi-tool, I think. And then a pretty nice two-dimensional Phillips screwdriver, the awl, and then a micro driver. And these are locking actually, and then you press this down here to unlock it. So they even managed to get locking tools on the handle. And then on this side, you have a pretty nice little knife, the file, double-sided file, the bottle opener, nice screwdriver, and the can opener. And again, all these are locking, and then you just press this tab right here. So a lot of thought went into this, and I think it could have been a lot better, but it had that one fatal design flaw of the handles coming up. Now, I'm not sure how you would fix it. If you would have a button that would depress and lock into place so the handles couldn't come up, that would be the easiest solution perhaps. Yeah, I'm not really sure, but that definitely should have been fixed. And so the Baton series did eventually fade away, but it still has some pretty cool design features that if someone would improve this tool, it possibly could become pretty amazing. So SOG will graduate from the scissors and the knife in the Q1 and the Q2 up to the spring-loaded pliers in the Q3. And then in the Q4, they will add a ratchet driver. So that is the big new development for the Q4. There is this nice little package with all these screwdriver bits. And so the Q4 will still include spring-loaded pliers, but as you notice, they will change, or actually, I think these pliers are basically the same. Yeah, they both are spring-loaded. They both have the wire cutters. They have this nice pocket clip still. But then at the back, what they'll do is they'll add this ratchet driver. And then you can use these 1/4-inch bits. You can put the bit in here. And then you've got this ratchet. Pretty nice. And then it includes this bit in the handle. On the other side, let's see if these are still locking tools. We'll get all these tools out. And I have to say that in the handle, these are pretty smooth. Pretty easy to get out. Let me unlock the knife. Yes, these are still locking tools in the handle. Then you can unlock that. These are pretty easy to access, these outside tools right there. Now this knife got a little hung up. I'm not sure why it fell into place. I think it's because it was getting hung up on the file. So the knife, the file, the screwdriver, bottle opener, and the can opener. So this will be the Q4. Now these tools will get increasingly expensive as they leave production. So I think lately I have seen just one of these tools go for almost $100, the Q4, and they become extremely rare. They are sold on AliExpress. I think even with this set, this little probably fake leather with the screwdriver bit set, you can still buy some of these on AliExpress, but they will be perhaps $60, $40 a piece for some of the lesser ones. Then I think it gets up close to $80, $90, $100 for the Q4. Now, the story doesn't stop there because people are still impressed with the Q4 design. So a lot of people will try to copy the Q4. The most recent version, like I mentioned, is actually QDX, and I did a whole review on this tool right here. And then also this tool right here, this is, let's see, it actually locks into place. So this will be a version of the Baton 2, but it will not have the flashlight. Instead, it has the whistle right there. And then you can, let's see, lock this in place. There we go, lock it in place right there. And then the pocket clip has a couple tools in the handle. These will be locking. It has a little button on the end. It's a little difficult to access these tools, but those are the two tools that it has on the end. And I will put in the description, or I'll put on the screen what tool this is, because it is not marked. And I actually forget, but I think this was only about $10 or so on Amazon at the time, but the price may have gone up drastically by now. And the tool that is still in production for some reason is SwissTech has taken over the design of the SOG Baton Q4, and they still market this with the ratchet driver, and it basically seems pretty identical to the Q4 in everything, pretty much, except these tools are a little bit harder to access. They've tightened them up. They're not as easy to get out of the frame, but they're still not too bad. You can access them. I really like the looks of the SwissTech, but unfortunately, I think it's around $60 to $70 for that design that still, yeah, when these pliers are open, when you're gripping something a little bigger, then the handles will rotate up on you. Unfortunately, SOG strikes out again with the Baton series because of that faulty design with the pliers. The pen and the knife perhaps are a little bit better, the Q1 and Q2. Again, I don't have the Q2, but with the Q3 and the Q4, unfortunately, that plier design, yeah, it's just not sturdy enough. And SOG pretty much comes out with an amazing design, and then they don't follow through completely, which is something we hear over and over again with SOG. Really cool designs that just don't quite become sturdy enough to use long term. So I hope in the future that SOG continues to innovate, but that they also take the time to make sure their design is a very good design as well.